it's good to have teamwork, and you play for your in your school for the house that you represent, or you may play against other schools. It's just a great way of having more competition rather than being just alone. And I think, except when you get older, it then it separates you from tennis from football or cricket or anything else. It's really I think, as you said, team sports make you competitive a little bit more, and I think that's definitely
great. So now, in terms of your tennis career, what were some of the challenges and or some of the breakthroughs that you had as a player?
Well, you went and you talked about who I had as coaches in the beginning and how many lessons did I have, and if I go back to that just as a starting point there, we had 8 people in a group, and the lesson was it was $12 Australian dollars for the term, and so it cost $1 a lesson in a group, and then the coach would play with me for half an hour once a week, and then you play with everybody else, and after the group lesson there were enough courts that you could go and just compete with each other, like a ladder system. And so that was a good way to develop and my passion there. And then you figure it out yourself, I think, to some degree. You taught about the volley. It's almost like you feel there's almost like one lesson. It's not like 50 lessons, and you have to figure it out, which I think is very important. But in that time in that age group of 12, when we were in Melbourne, I went to my first tennis tournament, watching the Australian. I think it was Victorian Open and then Australian Open, and I was sitting in the stand just watching, and I was trying to get an autograph from Harry Hopman. He was down on the steps a little bit further, but this man was sitting next to me and talking about tennis and asking me about what I do and things like that, and he said, would I like to meet the American Davis Cup? And I said, oh, that'd be great. And his name was George McCall, and in 1965 he was the Davis Cup captain in Australia, and they were for the United States. And so the next day I went to meet Arthur Ashe, Cliff Ritchie, Clark Gravener, and Herb Fitzgibbon, Jim McManus. I asked if I could pick up the balls. And so after some time, Arthur Ashe said, would you like to hit some? And I said, oh, that would be great. And so that was on for a few minutes, and then Harry Hopman came and said, Arthur, you can't have him on the court. This is a members club at Kooyong. Otherwise, all the children will be expecting to be able to have that opportunity. So, but anyway.
Well, so that was a rare and special moment right there. That's pretty outstanding.
Yes, and what it did, it just provided. I was up close to great players, and then when they left, I asked Harry Hopman if I could ball boy for the Australian Davis Cup team that was there with Newcombe, Roach, Emerson, Stolley, and so I picked up the balls there. So very close to learning how their training was, even at the age of 12 to 14, and so that's a great way to learn, to be educated. I didn't grow that much, but I'm 5'7" now, but that's not much compared to John Eisner, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But above there were some good players, and below me 1 year were McNamee and McNamara. ball with anybody, but obviously not playing sets and that. But I did actually. Harry Hopman, he had an American player invited to his house, so he invited me to stay with him. And then he sent me to a gym to a man named Stan Nichols, 1969. I was 16, so that helped me a lot, going to the gym to get fitter and that, and still to be exposed. But I managed to play young Kodesh in the South Australian Open on the centre court. I made 3 games, which wasn't very impressive, but it was still fighting nerves and things like that, and he was probably very gentle. That was probably the limit of that until I failed one subject in university. And so my father, in my second year, my father said, well, you need to go to work if you fail a subject. So I went to work. I took a job as a postman from 6 to 2, but that wasn't getting enough money. So I said, okay. So he said, you better take a second job, which was from 5 to 1. So from 6 to 2, and then from 5 to 1. Not much sleep. Tennis was deteriorated severely.